Hello, this is Joe Strechay. I hope you're doing well today. And this subject is a little tougher to talk about. And so I'm going to be addressing a little bit about discrimination. And so I'm thinking back to a story when I was coming out of graduate school at Florida State University. Go Noles. I was going to do my orientation and mobility internship in New York City, somewhere in the New York City area, and it would involve orientation and mobility in New York City. And I grew up outside of New York City in northern New Jersey, in Parsippany, and I used to, I guess in high school, we may have decided it was not to go to school at times, and may have ventured into New York City, into Greenwich Village and Times Square and other places to explore, and the Village became one of our favorite places. But anyway, so I grew up around New York City, and so after grad school, coming back and having the opportunity to start my internship in New York City was exciting, and to teach orientation and mobility and to learn from an instructor. So the university helped arrange it. I go and I show up and I go to meet with the organization. I'm there at the assigned time. I'm there early because that's what you should be. I took the subway and such down as I commuted and from Jersey City, and I get to the location, I go in, and I'm waiting in their lobby, and then they call me back, and I could tell right away when they saw my weight gain, there was what? So they bring me back, and it's the orientation mobility instructor, and I think the head of their programs for that organization, and so the head of the programs saw some of the stuff I spent the beginning with us, and so we're talking about my background and the work I've done also in transition. I do my sales pitch, selling them on what I've been doing and my background, and as a person also with my graduate work, but all the work I've been doing in transition around college preparation and working on curriculum for that, and she was the person who runs the programs was excited about that, but she left, so I was left with the orientation and mobility instructor who would be supervising my internship. I'm pretty excited. Well, this meeting turns into maybe a 2 to 3 hour interview. And I can tell she's very hesitant about having a person who's blind or visually impaired be an orientation mobility instructor or an intern under her as in orientation mobility. And at that time I had the tiniest bit of vision, less than 1%. But so I guess I had some low vision, but really, I was using my cane, but she asked me lots and lots of questions, and that was great. I love interviews. They're kind of like a game. There's information you want to get across. You want to listen to what they're looking for. It's a challenge, and I find that exciting. And so I had this long conversation, and it kept going and going. And she's like, "Well, have you ever taught orientation mobility in New York City and taught subways?" And I was like, "Well, actually, my university, we came up for a week and spent time in New York City, and going for half the time we were in New York City, traveling and learning about subway travel and traveling with the buses and all the sidewalk and all that. But I also grew up here in the area, and I took the subway here today. I'm comfortable with it, and I'd be comfortable teaching it. But I'm also here to learn from you too." So, yeah, and And she's like, huh, you've never really taught it though, right? I'm like, well, we role played it. And, we, throughout our training, we trained with Sleep Shade. And so we worked together to train each other as well throughout our multiple classes and courses. So we have that experience. But yes, I have not taught a person who's blind how to use the subway system, but I'm here for an internship. And it kept going and going, and there seemed to be like a negative tone later on, and I'm like, this is not going well. And I was like, I don't think I'm getting this. And we got towards the end, and I was like, she's like, do you have any questions for me? I was like, well, I'm wondering, where did you do your graduate work? I did mine at Florida State. She's like, oh, I did it at Northern Colorado in Greeley, Colorado. And I was like, oh, that's great. I know about Greeley. 30-some thousand people live there, I believe, residents, and the university. You're outside of Denver, Colorado. When training there, had you, and did you go right from there to working in New York City? She's like, oh yes, I did. I got a job. I came to New York City. I'm like, had you ever trained any individuals who are blind or visually impaired on subway prior to coming to New York City? She's like, no. I'm like, because Denver nor Greeley seem to have a subway system, nor are they the same as New York City. And training in Greeley is not the same as New York City. So that, and I'm hoping that I can learn from you, as you probably learned from the people you worked with in New York City. And she got quiet, and and I had already written this off. I knew I wasn't getting this, and I literally ended the interview. She thanked me for the time. The person who ran the programs came in, and they asked me if I would share a curriculum with them on transition. And I said, well, we'll see. Like, if we'll see. And I exit, and I call my supervising professor, and I talked to her, and I said, so that was an interview, and it was supposed to be a coordinating meeting, going over the an orientation to the internship and my hours and all this, and I definitely didn't get it, and I'm gonna find my own internship now. And so I started calling. I called the New Jersey Commission for the Blind, and spoke to first my counselor there, and then I spoke to some higher up people, and then they connected me to the New Jersey's Joseph Cohn Training Center. And
Cinderella Man, Universal Pictures, PG-13, Academy Award registered sign winners Russell Crowe and Ray Zellweger starring this triumphant, powerfully inspiring true story, in a time when America needed a champion, and unlikely hero to rise, proving how hard men would fight to win a second chance for his family and himself, suddenly thrust into the national spotlight. Boxer Jim Bradley defied the odds against him and Sonny Rolled with one of the greatest comebacks in history, driven by love for his family. He wrote an impossible dream to come true. Details, drama, released 2005, 144 minutes, HD content, Dolby Digital, closed captioning, 4.5 stars, 235, fresh tomato, 80%, language, English, actress, Russell Crowe, Renee Zellweger, top, loading. Recent fame, button, 1 and 2.
So Cinderella Man, it's a good film. You should check it out sometime. Yeah, I may have been watching that earlier. I called the New Jersey Commission. They connected me with the Joseph Cohn Training Center. I spoke to them. They said I could come in the next day for a meeting with them, and I did. And they offered me an internship, and I got it because the following day, after my initial interview meeting in New York City, they called me and they said, "Oh, we're not going to be taking any interns at this time. We've had a lot of interns lately, and but we would love if you'd share that curriculum with us, and we look forward to interacting with you in the future." And so, yeah. And so this was in the field of blindness, and you have to think, though, in orientation mobility at that time, like 99% of the people doing that type of work were not blind or visually impaired. Just in the late 90s, Dr. Schroeder and others had worked to really make it even legal for you to get certification as an orientation mobility instructor. It took some advocacy and really pressure to allow the certifying body to certify someone who's blind or visually impaired to be a orientation mobility instructor. and I'm grateful for those who followed, who I followed, and who made those. And New Jersey treated me so well, and extremely well. And I actually, my supervising instructor was a person with low vision, a person legally blind who was a cane traveler, who poor Michelle, who mentored me in that manner as well. And my university had recommended connecting with Daniel Kish as well. And prior to all of this, and I connected with Daniel Kish, and he gave me advice. And I really am grateful to him and Pora and others who I interacted with, who gave me advice as orientation mobility instructors who are blind or visually impaired. And so I could learn from them and learn the tips that allowed me to be more successful and independent as an orientation mobility instructor. And I really proved myself in New Jersey as an O&M instructor. I had some experience in Florida as well prior to all of this, and even that internship. So I'm truly grateful for what I've learned. But I want you to know that discrimination is out there, even in the field of blindness, where we're trying to impact and believe in people who are blind or visually impaired. And that was a long time ago, but there are still people out there who do not believe in people who are blind or visually impaired. You have to believe in yourself. You can't let anyone control your beliefs. You can't let anyone doubt you, because and if they doubt you, don't let them impact how you feel about yourself, because the only person we can control is ourselves. The only person we can control is ourselves. So thank you, and have a great day.